Welcome into Player Profiler News Primetime. I'm your host, Mike Lindberg, joined by my co-host, Jeremiah Retzlaf. Let's get this party started with our top story. Oh, hold on. We aren't even live yet. I have to do that again.
Okay.
Let's Welcome into Player Profiler News Primetime. I'm your host, Mike Lindberg, joined by my co-host, Jeremiah Retzlaf. Let's kick this show off with our top stories. All right, Jeremiah, I want to hear about the Baltimore Ravens backfield. We know that Derrick Henry's coming in and he's in a new place. He's got, pretty much the king's ransom in that backfield. But, there's some news shaking up in the secondary role there. We got Keaton Mitchell that is still not recovered from that injury. And now, we're hearing some steam about Rasheen Ali coming in as a rookie. He's also recovering from an injury. What do you got to say about this backfield and what our fantasy managers should be looking at headed into this 2024 season?
Hey, love to see everybody. Hopefully you got back safe from your 4th of July weekend. All good. The same way you went in, same way you came out. The Ravens backfield, Rasheen Ali, 18th round ADP on Underdog, ran a 4.48, 5'11", 206 pounds. Was a 5th round pick from Marshall. Now, Rasheen Ali, his first full season as a starter for college in 2021, he had just over 1,400 rushing yards. He caught 46 passes for 342 yards and scored a huge tally of 24 total touchdowns. He had a gap year. He dealt with some personal issues and some injury issues. Senior year, Ali had 1,135 yards, caught 28 passes for 213 yards, and scored 16 touchdowns. So Rasheen Ali will fight to get on the field behind Derrick Henry and incumbent running back Justice Hill. Rasheen Ali did have a fumbling problem in college, 11 fumbles across 3 seasons. So as playing time for a 5th round running back, it can be difficult to come by. This will be something to watch very early on. If Ali fumbles in the preseason, it could get late early in his 2024 season. It could be curtains for him quickly. As for Justice Hill, justice delayed is justice denied. We love Justice Hill coming out of Oklahoma State. Justice Hill has the inside track to the backup job. The Ravens backfield is quietly an opportune spot to mine contingent value behind star Derrick Henry. Between Justice Hill and Rasheen Ali, it is wise to split rostership in Underdog in those best ball drafts as they both go in round 18. Don't just fall in love with one back, as the chances are closer to 50-50 for either Justice Hill or Rasheen Ali being the next man up. Lastly, Keaton Mitchell, as you had mentioned before, isn't expected back until September. How quickly can Keaton Mitchell get his speed back? Remember, last year we wanted Keaton Mitchell to be Diet Devon Achane. Mitchell was stashed on waiver wires for weeks before being the RB5 in Week 9 versus the Seahawks. All right, he had a total of 134 yards and a touchdown. And then, of course, he succumbed to that brutal injury against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we will see his recovery there. But for now, keep an eye on both Justice Hill. Don't sleep on the veteran. And then keep an eye out for Rasheen Ali. But don't be too overbearish. Don't get too hasty pushing the rookie ahead of the veteran. Now, Mike, I got a question for you. Speaking of backfields, there's huge reward when we get this correctly, the contingent values, which back we pick and choose, and how we decipher it, or being able to calculate the proper veteran player to back up, even if their ADP may be higher. Mike, can you steer us in the right direction? The Cardinals backfield, can you break it down? James Conner, Trey Benson, what's the word on the Cardinals backfield?
Well, I mean, I am a guy that drafted a lot of Trey Benson in my rookie draft, especially in Dynasty here. Like, I thinking that he's going to be a guy that could definitely take on a big role, especially year one here with, James Conner. But Not so fast here, folks, on the Trey Benson train. James Conner is ready to lead that charge again in 2024, bearing an injury. He's fresh off his best season yet in 2023. He rushed for 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns at an impressive 5 yards per carry. He cemented himself as the go-to guy for the Cardinals in that backfield. Despite hitting 29 and facing durability concerns, Conner's tough running style and locker room leadership has won him praise. He's hitting it like he did continue to dominate in the rushing game this year. What is Trey Benson's role? What is that potential impact? Well, he holds the top spot right now, James Conner. It's no doubt that he has. But Trey Benson is shaking things up in that Cardinals running game. Drafted in the 3rd round, Benson is known for his breakaway speed, his big knack plays, making him a key part of Arizona's future running game. I'm liking his future. Like I said, I got a lot of Trey Benson, and the minute that something happens to James Conner, if something were to happen to James Conner, Trey Benson could be becoming a league winner for us here in 2024. But how does it shake up right now? What are we looking for? It all boils down to the reliability of James Conner and versus Benson's potential upside. Conner's consistent track record makes him a must start early on and a good bet early on, especially with the Cardinals offense on the rise. Don't sleep on Benson either. Tracking his progress through camp and preseason games could pay off big time if Benson proves himself and earns a bigger slice of the pie earlier in the season. So let's take a look at that. In conclusion here, guys and girls, poised to lead the charge, James Conner. His ground game in 2023 is going to look good in 2024, backed by that stellar season. His abilities are there, but Trey Benson's arrival, his excitement, and his potential has a promising long storyline. It's worth watching, fantasy managers here. I'm expecting James Conner coming out of the gate, but Trey Benson is right on his heels, and it's something to keep an eye on. But Trey Benson, James Conner, looking good. Now I got another rookie here. We talked about Trey Benson as a rookie. Now we're looking at another rookie in a new situation that there's a lot of optimism in this Buffalo Bills offense. Who is going to get the rock? Who's going to get it? Is Keon Coleman a guy that you think is going to be able to perform as a rookie? There's a lot of vacated targets from Stephon Diggs there, Jeremiah. Is he a guy that is going to come in like some people think he is and be the number 1 wide receiver in Buffalo? I'm not so sure, man.
Well, when you go down your sport drink aisles next to Gatorade and Powerade, you also have your Hopium. You can get it in powder or you can get it in jar form. Keon Coleman is an easy fade. Again, it is Hopium. The interviews with coaches are getting less and less bullish with more constructed coach speak catered towards, hey, Keon Coleman, he needs more growth, time to develop, as opposed to Keon Coleman is making DB sweat on every rep, or the Josh Allen, Keon Coleman connection is heating up. It's just pass after pass, reception after reception. They have chemistry between Allen and Coleman. You're not hearing that near the same. On Underdog, you can find Coleman in round 7. The price is too high. Recall the knocks on Coleman not being a refined route runner and that he has an inability to separate from defenders. So Keon Coleman is a reminder that your pre-draft scouting process and post-draft impressions can still align. We get swept up in FOMO and seeing the Bills draft Coleman had so many fantasy gamers being pulled in. This has played out for me as the last receiver I wanted the Buffalo Bills to draft was Keon Coleman. And sure enough, it happened. Coleman made it into a few Bills builds for me post-NFL draft on Underdog. And we talk about the litmus test for some players and gamers being, how do you feel after making the click? I personally never feel excited having done so. Regardless of roster construction and regardless of position at ADP, give me the following players: David Montgomery, JSN, Alvin Kamara, Evan Ingram, Kyler Murray, down to Jonathan Brooks, and even Jaylen Warren, who, Mike, you so valiantly defended on the combat zone a few weeks ago. Give me all of those guys over Keon Coleman. just a smattering of interest, maybe when it's leveled up with Josh Allen. But even then, I still might be inclined to pass. And then, on to that regard, I think I hear the Podfather. He's got something that he needs to tell us.
Hey, why do we partner with the FFPC? Because they have the widest variety of fantasy football formats, and it's the easiest place to find all types of fantasy football contests in the world. What if you want to play for high stakes? Well, they have a $6 million prize pool with their Fantasy Players Championship. They also have way too early best ball leagues that start in February and dynasty leagues. They have the closest thing to a liquid market for orphans that there is in all of Dynasty. And the FFPC has sponsored us for half a decade because we are actually delivering information that can help fantasy gamers, and they're generating so much interest and bringing in so many new users, casual users even. The FFPC creates a unique experience where you can both compete against the best and make money. Use promo code UNDERWORLD to get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team at the FFPC with promo code UNDERWORLD. Go get it!
All right. Thank you, Podfather. Now we have Mike, Dak in a walking boot. There was that picture on X that circulated. What do you make of it? What is your concern level? And what are your general feelings about Dallas overall and how it relates to QB1 in Dak Prescott?
Well, I think, and that's hearsay, I just think that he is poised for success despite recent minor foot sprain causing temporary concern. This is still really early in the preseason here, folks. Coming off a stellar 2023 campaign where he topped the NFL in touchdown passes and narrowly missed out on MVP honors, Prescott enters the new season with confidence and momentum despite the foot issue, which he attributed to precautionary measures stemming from a prior ankle injury. We know that one all too well. That was a horrific injury. So I can see why the Cowboys are being very cautious with Dak Prescott right now, especially if he doesn't have a contract. And, Dak Prescott on the other end doesn't want to be, exerting himself too much either at this stage without that contract either. So fantasy managers should take note that Prescott has consistent performance in recent years, highlighted by a strong showing in 2023, where he posted 9 games with more than 19 fantasy points and 7 games exceeding 24. He's got offensive weapons. You're going to talk about CeeDee Lamb in a few minutes here. Spoiler alert. But you can't discount people like Brandon Cooks, who has been a contributor in any NFL team he's been on, and riser and sleeper alert here, Jake Ferguson, who I think it could be the incumbent of the number 2 beneficiary of targets in that Dallas Cowboy offense. So he's a sleeper guy that I have my eye set on. I could see him, eclipsing the top 10 tight ends this year. And I just like his situation. So despite occasional injuries like calf strain in 2021 and that fractured thumb in 2022, Prescott managed to play all 17 games last year, and he aims to maintain that durability moving forward. And he's got the ability to lead, the league in completions and touchdowns. His potential is there. He's an unsung hero, and still in dynasty leagues, he's a guy I got my eye on still because he's still only 29 years old. And I think Dak Prescott is somebody, if you're looking at a late round value, a later round quarterback, if you're punting quarterback in these redraft leagues, Dak Prescott can be taken, as, in the top 12 quarterback range, but have that top 5 upside. So I really like Dak Prescott. I'm not worried about this at all. I think they're just being precautionary on both sides of the ball here. And I'm just really optimistic about both him and CeeDee Lamb. And I'm interested to see what your take is on CeeDee Lamb headed into 2024 as well, as we get back into the latter half of this combat zone of this show. Now we're talking about another team here, and there's some uncertainty. There's a couple of guys that have the potential of cracking the starting lineup, and they're not a starter. They weren't on the team last year, and both these guys are looking to crack the Denver Broncos lineup. So tell us a little bit about Lucas Krull. And, without Greg Dulcich there, he's had the opportunity to come in. And then you also got the quarterback controversy that is about to get started here. And is Bo Nix the guy that you think is going to be starting in 2024? And before we get into that, shout out to the 40 live viewers here. Let's get that number up there, folks. We appreciate everybody tuning in live. So Jeremiah, let's get your take on the Denver Broncos.
So let's start up at the quarterback position. Bo Nix, he's going in round 18 on underdog. He is free 99, currently competing with Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. Bo Nix, advocates will say he can process plays at a really high level, deliver the intermediate ball for the high completion percentage. As an Oregon Duck in 2022 and 2023, he had a 72.1 and 77.4 completion percentage, respectively. So it remains to be seen how much Sean Payton will expect Bo Nix to challenge NFL defenses with the deep ball. And hopefully, shout out to Billy Muzio, I said Oregon correctly. There was an interview during the Senior Bowl where Bo Nix likened his game and his wants and needs to mold his game to Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford. The idea being he can extend the play when needed, like Mahomes and Stafford do, improvising on the fly when the play breaks down, and be a precision passer. Now, people will hear those two names and say there's no way Bo Nix is in that category. But if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man, right, Ric Flair? So Bo Nix has to put himself up there with Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford if he wants to get better. So I understand the thinking there. The deep ball is a concern. My Socratic method question, can Bo Nix be a late 90s, early 2000s Rich Gannon and hit 7-yard slants and let his wide receivers do the rest? Expect Sean Payton to be creative with a short area passing game, which will include some combo of Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin, and or Blake Watson. All right, shout out to Bradley Stalder there with UDFA Blake Watson, with, of course, Audric Estime being the early down grinder. Now let's enter in Lucas Krull, who has been getting rave reviews during OTAs. In May, Sean Payton made mention of media members trying to figure out who's at number 85, with Sean Payton also expressing that soon everyone is going to know who 85 is. Lucas Krull is 6'6" and 253 pounds. He is, with Greg Dulcich having issues, staying healthy, Lucas Krull being the starting Broncos tight end is not out of the question. Rookie quarterbacks love tight ends, so call back to Bo Nix. Lucas Krull is a prototypical tight end who comes out of nowhere onto the scene and is a hot waiver wire pickup early in the year. This is no Peyton Manning, Julius Thomas breakout in Denver. However, Krull is the perfect player to have at the end of your dynasty rosters, and a player that will score a touchdown in September, with your buddies saying, who is that player that will score a touchdown in September? Who is that guy who's scoring a touchdown right now? And meanwhile, Player Profiler subscribers will just be like, yeah, we know who that guy is. Lucas Krull is going in round 18 on underdog. So, Mike, question for you. Josh Jacobs had praise for Jordan Love. Love and Jacobs, the outlook on the Packers. We talked a ton about wide receivers in the Green Bay offense. Can you tell us a little bit about Josh Jacobs, his praise for Jordan Love, and what you see out of both players in 2024?
Well, shout out to FF Plus Network here because they're highly engaged in our chat here. Release the Krull and Nix's free money, and we all agree with all this stuff here. We're big, truthers in that. And then the last one here is Blake Watson. No matter what, we love it. Shout out there, guys. But yeah, like I'm on this this Green Bay Packer hype train. And I'm sure Bradley Stalder is also on board with me talking about this highly right now. So let's get his opinion on that as well, I'm sure. But Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love steps into his second season as a Green Bay Packers starting quarterback. It seems like the hype train is picking up steam, and Josh Jacobs, the new running back, seems to be the president of the club. And I don't have any doubt. I loved Jordan Love last year as his breakout, and he's just gaining more steam. He's just not talking the talk. He's backing it up with serious, talk on the field. Despite Love's limited starting experience, Jacobs sees limitless potential in the talent around him. So what does that mean for fantasy football? I just think that Josh Jacobs adds a solidifying element up the middle, that they didn't have last year. Aaron Jones, he was prolific in the later half of the season, but he wasn't healthy. And I think Josh Jacobs brings some stability to that lineup. He brings, a guy that's gonna play the full season, bearing, him holding out last year. There were some issues with that, but I'd assume that was more of him holding out and bearing those injuries because he was trying to extend his next contract, and now he's there. And he's just witness of that rise of love. He's aiming to carve out his own legacy in Green Bay after signing that 4-year, $48 million deal. Jacobs is set to make an impact, and he's not set on season-long goals, but this year he's about to get some opportunity that he saw in Las Vegas. But I think he's in a better offense where he's going to be able to see a lot more scoring opportunity, and bearing an injury, he's got the keys to that backfield. It's no doubt. I like Marshawn Lloyd, and I think he's one of the best handcuffs in fantasy football right now as the number 2 guy. But as the starter, Josh Jacobs, that's his backfield to lose. And it's just seemingly that Josh Jacobs is going to have that opportunity, and I just love what I see there. So what's the outlook in terms of the Love-Jacobs partnership and the promising 2024? Love's potential to elevate the Packers passing game combined with Jacobs' dual threat abilities make them a formidable duo, and I see them winning that division this year. I know that the Detroit Lions are steamers. They have a great team, but I just think that the Green Bay Packers, if they can steal a couple wins there and get into Lambeau, in the playoffs, I think they can make some noise. So I just really like what I see there, and I just think the Jordan Love Green Bay Packer with Josh Jacobs is going to be electrical. The answer to which Green Bay wide receiver is yes. Also, Christian Watson. Christian Watson, everybody has got the hamstring issue there. We'll see what happens. I'm not sold on Christian Watson. I know a lot of people around the Green Bay Packer fan base are really still high on Christian Watson. We'll see what this new rehab and the double hamstring has to say about it, but I'm not quite sold. I love what I see in Jaden Reed and some of the secondary options they have there. Dontavian Wicks to be a notable guy that I'm really high on. And, Romeo Doubs is somebody that you can't exclude either. So, yeah, man, what is going on here? Let's stay within that division and let's get into some coach's corner here, Jeremiah. And you're going to give us a breakdown of another team that could potentially be in the running in that NFC North there with the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, and they're getting a brand new rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. Break down for us, Jeremiah, in the coach's corner, the Chicago Bears. Let's do it.
Very nice, Mike. Thank you for that intro on the Chicago Bears. I have the ADPs pulled up on Underdog. I'll present for just a little bit on that. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears. Low-key, as I'm going through all my research, a few weeks ago, I was talking about the Tennessee Titans and, hey, they're just going to throw so much. An impression that I got across, and I'll spit a little bit here about it, is that I think the Bears sneakily, with a better quarterback, Caleb Williams is clearly a better quarterback than Will Levis. The Chicago Bears are set up to throw plenty in 2024. So let's just start off. DJ Moore in round 3 on Underdog was wide receiver 6 in 2023. 100% route participation, 28.9% target share. That was 10th at the wide receiver position. DJ Moore also had a 21.1% target share in the red zone. DJ Moore finally has an alpha QB. When you watch DJ Moore gobble up yardage after the catch, he just strides and eats up the field like a vacuum cleaner. Put the tape on of the Week 5 50-burger against the Commanders, and you see what DJ Moore is capable of. Week-winning output. Pay up at ADP. So click the button on DJ Moore. More DJ Moore. Keenan Allen in round 5. What a conundrum, right? What a great problem for Caleb Williams to have. Keenan Allen was wide receiver 8 despite 13 games played last season. 21.5 fantasy points per game, was number 3 at the position. Allen had a 32% target share, which was number 3 in the league. 100% route participation in 2023. So good luck taking Keenan Allen off the field at all, but particularly during 12 personnel groupings. The only thing that may keep Keenan Allen off the field will be injuries. Rome Odunze in round 6. The future is now. At 6'3" and 212, is only an inch taller and a handful of pounds heavier than Keenan Allen. Rome Odunze has great late hands, giving Caleb Williams the assurance that Caleb can lay the ball up and Odunze will go and get it. Now let's shift over to DeAndre Swift. Round 18, the Bears were swift in signing DeAndre immediately on day one of free agency. We've talked about the Tennessee Titans being a throw mo team with their running backs strengths coming through in the receiving game, a la Spears and Tony Pollard. So the Bears very subtly are forecasting that they will throw early and often in 2024. DeAndre Swift is just another weapon to support Caleb Williams. Now, the main event, the main man, Caleb Williams, going in the 10th round on Underdog. The number 1 overall pick will be the Bears' first quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards in the season. He will do it this season. The triumvirate of Moore, Allen, Odunze will keep Caleb on track regardless of the Chicago wins. Haters and detractors will point to the mental side, the emotional demeanor, whether it's the nails being painted or public tears. The people who hate Caleb Williams will always find a reason to dislike Caleb. The Bears are wisely putting Caleb in a spot where he will be buoyed by the talent around him, allowing less pressure while there are growing pains. This will help Caleb Williams just play and let his true talent be put on display. Now, Cole Kmet, as I was rattling through all these players on the Bears, the 12-13 turn, Cole Kmet, not a guy I have a lot of exposure to, but quietly last year was tight end 8. Granted, beyond the elite tight ends, there's a statistical cliff. The main sentiment, though, I have is touchdowns. Cole Kmet last year had 7 touchdowns, or 7 in 2022 and 6 in 2023. I expect a touchdown spike for Cole Kmet. The more I lay out what the Bears have going on, with defenders having to keep up with the wide receiver trio, the more Kmet sounds like an easy click at the 12-13 turn. So good luck covering that trio, and there's Cole Kmet underneath for the rookie in the seams. Now with Khalil Herbert in round 16, my main note, please get traded. Herbert offers a diverse skill set, which again helps offer Caleb Williams another bailout from the backfield in the passing game. Now this is where it gets really fun. We're deep in the weeds. Roschon Johnson, round 17. Roll back through memory lane, and Roschon Johnson had pre-free agency buzz. The Swift signing made and still does make it appear that Roschon is buried on the depth chart. In round 17, though, I like to take the concept of factor of one removal thinking, where you can lay out some Socratic method questions such as, what if Khalil Herbert gets traded? What if DeAndre Swift gets hurt? It only takes a factor of 1 to see that there was only one factor in the way, of which Roschon Johnson having a significant share of the Bears' backfield can happen. So the beauty is that the contingency we so often need to play out in other backfields can reveal itself in multiple ways for Roschon Johnson. So I like clicking Herbert and Johnson late in drafts. Now, Gerald Everett, somebody who I have not been clicking personally, he's a good cluster tight end to draft. I would just say if you were to click on Everett, apply the 3 late tight end strategy in your back 3 rounds. Sure, there's somebody you can rattle in, but I don't think you need to diversify too much. I really like the case for the Chicago Bears to have an electric offense, and you need to click, especially with that trio of receivers, Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore, stats will get printed. You will get burned even more from staying away entirely because you don't know which wide receiver to click and choose versus just deciding to take the Bears receivers at cost when you can find them in your drafts. So click, and even in redraft, if it's one draft, click DJ Moore. If it's another and it presents itself, get Keenan Allen. The long story short, get yourself exposure to these Bears wide receivers, and you have a confident click in Caleb Williams. What do you think of that, Mike?
I love that. I love the Roschon Johnson take. I'm really high on Roschon Johnson coming into this season. I think he's got the opportunity for that backfield, and I'm thinking it's good love there. So let's get everybody subscribing to our YouTube channel. We just hit 500 subscriptions at Player Profiler News YouTube channel. We are the secondary channel to the main channel from Player Profiler. So please click subscribe. Support our shows. We are growing and it's constant support. So we appreciate everybody from tuning in. And let's get into the next segment. And I'm all in on loving the Watson connection. So there's a lot of people in on that connection. So I'm intrigued to see how that'll play out. So in my section here, let's get into the chef's table. So on today's Chef's Table segment, we are going to be slicing and dicing the 2024 fantasy football preview for the high octane, my Kansas City Chiefs offense. From the quarterback to the tight end, who I ironically drafted both of them in my Scott Fishbowl today, stack the first Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes stack in the Scott Fishbowl is owned by Mike Lindberg. So shout out to me for that one. I love that. That's a huge one for the Chiefs kingdom. So I'm pumped about that one. So but let's get into this. Patrick Mahomes, 2024, he's geared up to reclaim his status as a fantasy football powerhouse after a tough 2023. Despite his lowest career touchdown rates and yards per attempt, Mahomes remains an elite QB, top 3 quarterback, in my opinion. Drafted on average at 36 ADP in most one quarterback leagues. He is unmatched talent and consistent success make him a standout pick, especially with Kansas City enhancing their offensive arsenal. New additions like Marquise Brown, who we'll get into a little bit later on, Xavier Worthy, they both bring big play speed and big play potential downfield to the Chiefs lineup. That's promising when you think about how that's going to open up the short middle route game for guys like Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. I talked about Travis Kelce last week in depth about in our combat zone, and I'm still pretty high on him. With strong support from his receivers and committed to the Chiefs offense, Mahomes is set for a rebound. I think he's a must-have in 2024. Don't overlook Mahomes' potential to bounce back and lead your fantasy squad to victory in 2024. Now let's get into the wide receivers. This is the one I think a lot of people need direction with. And here's my breakdown as a Chiefs faithful. My instinct says I think that Rashee Rice is going to be a good value headed into this season. I think Marquise Brown is going to potentially hit his ADP, and I think Xavier Worthy is going to be the odd man out, a guy that's a rookie, unless there's going to be an injury to one of the bigger names like Marquise Brown, or if Rashee Rice inevitably does serve that suspension. I don't think that's going to happen in 2024. I think it might be a looming suspension that could, be in 2025. So that's kind of a wheels up for this whole offense for the Chiefs. And when you break it down, here's how the receivers will shake out, in my opinion. I think Marquise Brown is looking to bounce back from his challenging stint with the Ravens and with the Arizona Cardinals. He had a great season with the Ravens in 2019, but now he's ready to have his bounce back. He's getting paired up with Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to be able to, use that speed and really, really get downfield, making him a valuable asset as he looks to make his mark in Kansas City. When we talk about the rookie wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, the 28th overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, he's known for his blazing speed. We know that he broke the record at the combine for the 40-yard dash in impressive fashion. That 4.21 blazing speed is something that you have to note, okay? While he faces tough competition for targets initially, his big playability meshes perfectly with Mahomes' knack for those deep passes. His ADP of 83 reflects that he's got that potential breakout, but he needs an injury to happen to some of those top guys for him to make that impact early here for the Chiefs, or that suspension, like I mentioned. Managing these Chiefs receivers in fantasy football requires understanding of their roles and their contributions as Mahomes aims for his comeback this season. Whether you are banking on a Rashee Rice rise, Brown's reliability, and Worthy's rookie flair, each bring unique strengths to the Chiefs' offensive scheme. Keep an eye on training camp development and preseason performances to gauge their impact. I have a suspicion that it's going to be Rice and Marquise Brown seeing the majority of the wide receiver snaps out of the gate until we can see a guy like Xavier Worthy carve out that role. Now, I talked about Travis Kelce in depth. I think he's in for a bounce back season. He has that potential there. I think they're going to rest him a little bit more this year, keeping him fresh towards that playoff stretch. The Chiefs aren't needing to, make a huge splash. They know they can win as long as they have a decent record. And I still think Travis Kelce is going to be a guy that the Chiefs are going to rely on. You can expect his 8 to 9 targets per game. And that is very, very high valuable targets in Patrick Mahomes' high value offense. So now the running backs, let's break that down real quick here. And most of the potential and talent lies within Isaiah Pacheco coming off that breakout season. He led the Chiefs rushing attack with 935 yards, 7 touchdowns. Entering his 3rd NFL season, he aims to surpass 1,000 yards, proving him as a reliable RB2, known for handling heavy workloads and delivering, most importantly, in crucial games. And that's going to keep him on the field as long as he is healthy. Clyde Edwards-Helaire returns for his 5th season. He's providing depth, versatility behind Pacheco. Despite a quieter 2023, fantasy gamers might consider him as a late round depth piece as Pacheco's handcuff, hoping for a resurgence. Deneric Prince, obviously entering his sophomore season, he showcased athleticism, especially at the combine 2 years ago. He's a sleeper pick if he can secure a role in that backfield, but someone else has got something to say about that, and I have really high hopes for this guy who's transitioning from being a rugby standout, and that's Louis Rees-Zammit. His NFL debut could be sooner than most people think via the International Player Pathways program. He has excitement with his speed, his special teams prowess. While initially making an impact on special teams, he could be a guy that could be a speculative add and pickup in deeper fantasy leagues because he has that opportunity to play in different roles. You could see him in the backfield catching passes. He could line up on the line. He just needs that opportunity, and getting those special teams opportunities is going to see him on the field and potentially making that impact. I can see him, getting into that RB3 role for the Chiefs in no time because Jerick McKinnon is now gone, and there is room for opportunity. And Deneric Prince is another guy that has that opportunity as well. But I think it's all going to rely on special teams, and it looks like Louis Rees-Zammit is going to be that guy there. So a couple other guys like Imani Bailey and Carson Steele could see some steam depending on, how they run. Imani Bailey, similar running style to Pacheco. So maybe if an injury to Pacheco happens, that you could see him getting elevated from the practice roster. Or if the Chiefs decide to bring in a fullback style player, Carson Steele could fit that role. Now, Jeremiah, it is time to get into the combat zone. Now, last week we combated and we talked about Travis Kelce. We talked about Trey McBride being the number 1 tight end headed into 2024. But they looks like our Twitter fans and the people following our show had other things to say about it. And they said that Sam Laporta is going to be the tight end 1 headed into 2024. And you know what? All have great arguments. Dalton Kincaid, who is kind of the dark horse right now, but could see a huge uptick in targets, being the number 1 target potentially in Buffalo. But all of these picks, pretty sound. This poll 5 years ago probably would have just been leaning towards one player, Travis Kelce, because the tight end landscape was a desolate, and it's no longer that. So Pretty good optimism. Now, what do we got for this next combat zone, Jeremiah? Who we battling? What are we battling this week, my man?
So we've had some good so far. Jalen Warren, Najee Harris. It makes you think. Part of the results as well on this tight end poll last week, was it chopped up 4 ways. We gave 4 options. We fought 2 sides. We combated, right? And you left people, even though Sam Laporta won that poll, it's very razor thin. The percentages, very close. So we're talking pluralities and not majorities in these contests. The next one we have up, you will see right after this.
It's go time. It's go time. It's go time. We going up. We go.
So we have who is going to be the number 1 wide receiver next year. We talked about the tight end 1 last week. We have the wide receiver 1 this week. Mike, what do you got for us for the wide receiver 1 this week?
Well, I'm gonna go, and I know I'm gonna blow the skepticals here. I'm going with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I think he's on a collision course with wide receiver 1 status in 2024. He's fueled by undeniable stats and ideal team setup, consistent production. Amon-Ra St. Brown delivered 3 consecutive 90-catch seasons. It accumulated into a stellar 2023 campaign where he ended with 112 receptions, 1,371 yards, 9 touchdowns. His ability to perform at an elite level sets a strong foundation for exceeding expectations. I think he's looking great heading into this season. Target dominance in 2023, St. Brown commanded a significant 30% target share and 34% air yard share within that Detroit Lions offense, underscoring his central role as Jared Goff's primary target. His high volume of targets positions him to sustain and potentially increase his production this upcoming season. The contract extension, team stability, it says enough. Securing that lucrative 4-year, $120 million contract extension highlights St. Brown's integral role with the Detroit Lions offensive strategy, with a stable coaching staff under Dan Campbell and an evolving supporting cast that includes emergent talents like Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs. St. Brown benefits from the continuity, the growing offensive prowess, fantasy performance, and upside. St. Brown's finished 3rd among wide receivers in half PPR last year. Every year in the league, he's only gotten better. He averaged 16.5 fantasy points per game. His ability to win at various levels of the field, coupled with Jared Goff's proficient passing and the Lions' offensive improvements, suggest he is poised for his career best season in 2024. I love the quarterback consistency, despite varying opinions on Jared Goff. His above-average passing metrics, including a 67% passing completion rate, 7.6 yards per attempt over recent seasons, including that, the stable for him to perform. Amon-Ra St. Brown has continued success. I'm looking at him to stay on track and become the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football in 2024, thanks to his consistent production, dominant presence in targets, a stable team environment. He's been a force for the last 3 seasons. The sun god shined bright in 2023, finishing as the wide receiver 3, and he's only getting better. Amon-Ra St. Brown blazes a trail to 2024 wide receiver 1 glory, basking in the Lions' sunny realm of stability and growth. Let's hear about your number 1 wide receiver. Back that up.
Well, there's about to be a dome covered on the sun god, so it will not be relevant this year. CeeDee Lamb sits on the throne until it is taken away. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 1 overall in 2023, and will be again in 2024. CeeDee Lamb is number 2 ADP overall on Underdog. He goes number 1 frequently. Now let's rattle off. CeeDee Lamb in 2023, First in targets was 181. Why can't that repeat? Why can't that go up? Number 1 in receptions, 135. Why can't that repeat? Why can't that go up? Number 2 in receiving yards with 1,749. Number 1 in red zone targets with 31. Dak knows where his money is made. Number 4 in slot snaps with 508, 51.3%. One thing to note in this debate, Amon-Ra and Lamb get slot usage, get moved around. So love that. Number 1 in total touchdowns with 14. CeeDee Lamb was number 1 in yak with 680 yards. Number 1 in total fantasy points with 403.2. And CeeDee Lamb, for best ball drafters, number 1 in best ball points added with 263.8. And then last week, we talked about Jordan Addison and his route wins. CeeDee Lamb, 323 total route wins, was number 1. You notice the theme here, Mike. 23.7 fantasy points per game was number 1. All right, that dome is going to be covered on the number 1 outlook for Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right, the sunlight won't be there in the dome. Amon-Ra has elite talent to compete with in Sam Laporta. 2 lethal weapons in the backfield of Gibbs and Montgomery. Jared Goff has more options available to him, whereas Dak, he has tunnel vision through CeeDee Lamb. The offense will run through CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson and Cooks will get their stats after the first read. That is, once again, CeeDee Lamb. The Ezekiel Elliott, Deuce Vaughn, Rico Dowdle trio will inspire the Cowboys to lean on Dak Prescott's right arm. Overall, there is other elite talent in Detroit, whereas Lamb will benefit from all the volume, and Ferguson and Cooks, they're good enough to keep defenses honest. So the dome's going to be covered, and it's CeeDee Lamb, number 1 wide receiver. Put it on the board. What do you think of that, Mike?
Well, I like it. I mean, it's splitting hairs here. CeeDee Lamb did have a phenomenal 2023 season. He led all receivers. We talked about points and touchdowns, all that stuff. His situation in Dallas does present some potential challenges for maintaining that level of dominance. Despite Lamb's undeniable talent and rapport with Dak Prescott, the Cowboys' offseason losses and red zone inefficiencies poise risk and regression. Historically, wide receivers leading in red zone targets often see decreased production the following season due to team dynamics and defensive adjustments. While Dallas faces uncertainty with their offensive personnel and their offensive strategies, I think they're going to be in a lot less scoring situations. They're not going to have a good enough presence because their running game isn't going to be as good as it was last year. I don't think CeeDee Lamb is going to have as good of a season. He's going to see a lot more double teams because they're just going to see one player, and it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. So I just think that there's going to be some challenges there, but I love both of it. This is great. This Discord, it's good for our viewership. Remember to like, remember to subscribe to the Player Profiler News on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter because we're coming up with the news. Jeremiah, another great show. You want to bring our viewers home with the outro, my man?
So let me tell you about the 2-story apartment. The first floor, nice, new, renovated. The second floor, that's another story. So check in on us. We'll have plenty more stories and plenty more for you in the upcoming week and next week on Player Profiler News Primetime. Come and see us.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.